I want you to hear Mitch McConnell at a press conference today on his principled position. I want you to listen to him and keep in mind how Schumer speaks and Pelosi speaks, but I want you to listen to the Republican leader in the Senate. And I want you to keep a few things in mind. When we had the Senate and the House and the presidency, what did McConnell do on the border issue? Nothing. He has exploded the debt during his tenure in Washington, D.C. The government must do. We cannot shut the government again. I told you before. It's like the bridge over the River Kwai. He's the colonel. Blow up the bridge! Blow up the bridge! They built the bridge at the gunpoint of the Japanese. A Japanese train is coming. He's to blow up the bridge. And he falls in love with the bridge. And he won't blow it up. Then he gets shot. And he falls on the plunger and the bridge blows up. But that's Mitch McConnell in many ways. He's in love with government. It's just easier to cut deals. It's easier to spend money. It's easier to run up the debt. And that's what he does. And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of the whole damn bunch of them. Look, we have new bipartisanship. We have, what was it that somebody said? Who is that leftist on CNN? The Maoist. I can't remember his name. And he was for criminal justice reform. He's one of their anchors over there. Van Jones. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Whoa. You had your Cheerios today. You're on your game, baby. They're all thrilled to be in the same room with Van Jones. And if Van Jones and Charles Koch can come together, can't America? No, we can't. Because the radical libertarians and the radical left have way too much in common when it comes to law enforcement and national security and immigration. Let's be honest. Notice I don't say libertarians, I say radical libertarians. And all these wealthy members of the Koch network pushing for amnesty now, didn't support the president the first time. The president better have some people around him who see this. These are not his friends. These are not his supporters. And a momentary quote-unquote victory will be an ultimate disaster. You have some conservatives, some who are just gadflies, some who just big mouths going off right now. But you're going to have serious conservatives, traditional conservatives, conservatives with microphones and so forth, who are thoughtful, who are traditionalists, who are going to look at this and say, no. We got burned with Reagan. We got burned subsequently. We fought Bush. We'll fight whomever pushes this agenda. And it was Reagan, actually, who got burned with all the rest of us. And we see what's happening in these states. Anyway, I want you to listen to Mitch McConnell at the press conference today. Hat tip, right scoop. Cut one, go.
You're a longtime appropriator. What is the right scope for this conference committee? We've had other people talk about immigration.
Now stop right there. They have a conference committee, right, to discuss this? And the guy says, what's the right scope? And McConnell starts laughing. You want to know why? Because there is no right scope for McConnell. Just get a deal. Keep the government open. Let's start from the top, Mr. Producer. Cut one, go.
You're a longtime appropriator. What is the right scope for this conference committee? We've had other people talk about immigration, DACA, debt ceiling. Would you be okay if they can forge an agreement and it wanders off into those other areas, or you want to keep it just strictly to border security?
I'm for whatever works, which means avoiding a shutdown and avoiding the president feeling he should declare a national emergency. Exactly how to do that, as you all know, has been quite challenging.
So that sounds like broader scope.
I'm for narrow or broader. I'm for whatever works that prevents the level of dysfunction we've seen on full display here the last month, and also doesn't bring about a view on the president's part that he needs to declare a national emergency.
So now we have the national emergency now as a bugaboo. Wasn't a bugaboo when Obama used it. Wasn't a bugaboo when Clinton used it. Wasn't a bugaboo when Ford used it. Wasn't a bugaboo when Reagan used it. Wasn't a bug. Now it's a bugaboo. Now it's a separation of powers issue, we're told. And I've gone through this so even members of Congress can understand it. I'm not going to go through it again. It is not a violation of separation of powers, not in the way that this president wants to use it. If he wanted to declare martial law or nationalize industries, then I would argue yes. That's not what he's doing. He's not creating a law like Obama did with DACA. He's taking a law that has been in existence for 43 years. And he's also looking at other laws that we talked about yesterday, and all of a sudden today, hey, you know what? He could use the defense. Yeah, we know. We talked about it yesterday. And also the Immigration and Naturalization Act. There are a number of things the president can do. The dysfunction isn't on him. And let me tell you something. It's not really dysfunction. It's the Speaker of the House and the Democrats in the House. They have decided they don't want a wall. And so what you hear from McConnell, what you hear from the Koch brothers, what you hear from gutless Republicans and radical libertarians is, let's cut a deal. And amnesty should be on the table, whatever works. And we'll take on these conservative groups and these loudmouths on radio. Where else are they going to go? Well, then they badly misread us. Badly misread us. I've said, and I meant, that I don't think this 3-week government open strategy is the end-all and be-all. It's perfectly fine. I have no problem with it. You and I are in a wait-and-see attitude. Let's see what happens. We can give them 3 weeks. If that's what the Congress wants, if that's what everybody wants, 3 weeks. But the bottom line is the bottom line. You heard this quizzling, and that's what he is, McConnell. You heard him. And all the rest of it. I'm for whatever works to avoid a government shutdown and to avoid the president using the National Emergency Act. Never opposed the National Emergency Act before. Neither did all these tough constitutionalist conservatives. Never said a damn thing. And several dozen of them are still active. You haven't heard them talk about that, have you? It's the third rail. Maybe that's what we need to put on a border, the third rail. What's happening now is the left, the radical libertarians, and cowardly conservatives are all throwing in. President should never use the National Emergencies Act, say some conservatives. Well, what should he do? That's a statute. It's there. It's been used a zillion times. What would you have him do? What would you have him do? That's what I would have him do. Well, the courts will overturn it. We can't help that. You fight. You make your case. District court, circuit court, to the Supreme Court. And if they defy the law and the Constitution too, then that's something we need to focus on, and we have with Convention of States. But Mitch McConnell is a disaster, and yet he has enormous power in the Senate. Nobody challenges him because he pulls people from committees, he yanks them in his room, his office, reads them the Riot Act, withholds money from them. That's why this jerk governor of Arizona picked McSally. McSally is a McConnellite. And that's all McConnell cares about. McConnell is as power hungry as Nancy Pelosi. You need to understand this. And he'll have all the sycophants in Washington, D.C. Yes, but he got us Kavanaugh. He didn't get us anything. You can thank that Harry Reid. He set the stage for Gorsuch and Kavanaugh's confirmation. McConnell, what has McConnell done in the zillion years he's been the leader of the Republicans? He can't even communicate with the American people. Isn't it time to put some of these dinosaurs out to pasture? Shouldn't they go home to their families, their grandchildren? I don't understand this. You want to sit in the Senate for 30 years, 36 years, 42 years? You're in your 70s and 80s. What the hell's wrong with you? Do you care about your families? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.